bodybuilding training, there's just not much methodology behind it. Whereas like strength training, powerlifting, there's some pretty damn good coaches that know their stuff. Well, but in bodybuilding, it's always like, well, just take a bunch of drugs and lift weights and you'll get bigger.
Welcome to Price Plow.
Hey, what's going on, Price Plow Nation? We're here at the 2018 Arnold, and I'm with John Meadows. To me, you're becoming less of the bodybuilder we knew and more of the YouTube guy now. What do you think about that, man?
Hey, man, I don't mind it at all. Like, there's a reason why I'm working so hard on my YouTube. It's so people recognize me as doing YouTube. Right. So when I hear that, I'm like, I must be doing something right.
That's so awesome. Dude, it's such a breath of fresh air to hear, like a guy like you, to me, I mean, for me anyway, you know, I'm 32 years old. I would say like I'm like still kind of young in the industry-ish, but I look at guys like you and I'm like, man, like these are like the OGs, you know what I mean? Like you're one of the original, you know, guys in the bodybuilding scene, but here you are embracing this new generation that I love. Like obviously I love the YouTube social media world, and there's so many of guys in your era that are fighting it, and here you are like embracing it.
Yeah. I mean, it's that old adapt, you know, and survive, or don't and die, right? And you know, I mean, I don't have many years of competing left, and I want to support my family, and so I got to have a good business. But I don't understand. I think people just get stuck in their ways. Right. And I think they're scared of challenges. Sure. I see it as a challenge. Like if I see a guy with 200,000 YouTube followers, I don't go, oh, he sucks, I'm better than him. I go, how can I do that? Like, what can I do to get better at that? Like, I take all this stuff as a challenge, and you know, just trying to get better and better and better at it. But
well, and what's awesome is something that I really respected about your generation versus like you're the prior to millennial generation, and to me that was the generation of hard work, and you're implementing that into a millennial-esque kind of thing. Like, with your YouTube as an example, you're not just doing a video a week. I mean, you're like on it, and you're showing like that grind. And I know from doing this full time, like this is a lot of work. And I mean, so what's your experience with that, man? I mean, like clearly it's got to be a different challenge.
Well, my true passion is training. It's training, bar none. And the YouTube videos where we film workouts are a way for me to train and to show the world how we train. And you can watch the video and you can try it or you can ignore it. But there are a lot of people who try it and they're like, man, that was a great workout. I really enjoyed that. So if I can inspire somebody to train hard and to follow my programs, and I'm obviously all for that, but it's all about the training to me. And YouTube is cool because it's another medium to allow me to get that out to people. Right. So it's not just me in a dungeon gym and I come out once a year. I want people to see the ideas that I have. I mean, I travel the world doing seminars, which is another way for me to communicate. This is how I train, this is why I do this. There's a plan behind everything,
Right. Yeah, you can definitely like get that kind of emotion from your videos, is that there's a difference between somebody that produces content that they really care about the message they're giving versus somebody that's just kind of like putting stuff out to put stuff out, right? And you can definitely tell that your passion for training is what's really shining through with your videos. So it's a lot of good information, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so tell me about your new program, I guess. I
just launched it at 11 o'clock last night.
Nice, man.
It's called the Gamma Bomb.
So that's a Hulk reference. There you go.
Gamma Bomb. So what I did was, my programs are super, super, super detailed. And I put this one into a format that has all the details, the phases of each workout and all that. But I also added a section there. There are pro tips that are kind of scattered out. And it's it's a combination. And it's not only now a training program, it's an educational resource. Right. Because I have all these pro tips in there, to just explain things like, if you want the hamstring muscle to hang, you need to develop your biceps femoris. In order to do that, you need to do a leg curl because the hip hinge doesn't work down. Just things like that. Yeah,
so like biceps femoris short head is uniarticular. Exactly. So you need to like actually flex at the knee. A lot of people that's never talked about, right? Right.
So not only are people getting the training, they're getting smarter along the way. They're getting a little more educated. Dude, so I'm trying to turn this into, I believe they're the most detailed programs that are out. I don't think anybody would argue that. But now I'm going to take it to another level. Now I'm going to actually educate people with the programs too, teach them.
Yeah.
It's another way for me to teach.
Well, I'm gonna dig in a little bit here because this is my arena, man. This is what I like, okay? And so is this an undulated style, a non-linear progression? Like how many weeks are we talking?
Yeah, if you were going to put it into a style, it'd be undulated. But what I do is...
Now daily, like throughout the weeks, or are you doing like...
I have some core exercises that tend to not move.
So they're kind of the linear portion of it.
Yeah, but that part is, but then the other stuff it varies more, the rep ranges vary. But there is a specific goal in certain exercises. There's a reason why we're doing them. But I also believe that for full muscular development, you need to train the body at different angles. Like if you look at your chest,
right,
it might have a common origin, but where's it inserting? Here,
right,
here. So you need different exercises. Your back, look at your lats, with all the back muscle.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the exact same origin and the exact same insertion. So multi-angular angles. People like to laugh at that. Oh, these fancy angles. I'm like, actually, for complete development.
When I think believe it or not, so I think that even Schoenfeld and some of the guys out there pushing the research behind this would suggest that diversity in training for hypertrophy is a good thing. I do think sometimes it feels like it goes too far. You know what I mean? Where you're so just think about it enough. And it's like, well, you really got to consider volume, intensity, and all these other probably deeper components, but yes, definitely diversity in exercise. So, but you're a guy that kind of combines all the right things, in my opinion. Like when I outside looking in, I either get the bro that just is giving me the hard fuck, workout, like train till you throw up. Then I got the guy that's too nerdy about it, and then I find you somewhere in the middle that I appreciate. So,
Well, it's interesting. I always looked at it this way. Like you had people, this is how you train to get big. The only way to get bigger is to add a bunch of weight. Then you had the other people that were the opposite. And I always thought both of those pathways work.
Right.
So why not exploit them intelligently and layer the training program so that you take advantage of all of that?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I layer my training. It's layered around weight progression, but there's also, everybody calls it metabolic stress now. That's the cool term, but I was doing this many years ago. Arnold was doing it many years ago, where it's more...
It's the overload principle, right?
Super maximal pump is what I call it,
right.
But it's just pumping the hell out of a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like to finish with movements that create a really hard stretch.
Gotcha.
So everything is sequenced in a way where each phase builds on the previous phase. And I just don't think really bodybuilding training, there's just not much methodology behind it. Whereas like strength training, powerlifting, there's some pretty damn good coaches that know their stuff. But in bodybuilding, it's always like, well, just take a bunch of drugs and lift weights and you'll get bigger.
Well, the problem, I think you're doing a really good job of putting that framework there, but from my personal experience, like working with folks on strength, then working on like more endurance-based athletes, hypertrophy is such an interesting thing where there's really not a right way, if you will, right? You know what I mean? Like there's lots of ways,
right?
And that almost makes it a little weird because everybody wants that definitive, like, no, it's high reps, no, it's heavyweight, no, it's like, well, it depends, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's interesting. I can see the challenge in that. So
yeah, so I love the science of training, man. I don't like when I formed all my opinions, though. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I formed them through PubMed. It was trial and error.
Sure.
It was year after year after training. Man, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. What if I did this?
You've gone through some serious injuries and stuff too, man. I mean, there's probably some like hard lessons that you've learned over the years.
Many hard lessons. Many hard lessons. Yeah, I mean, I quit doing compound movements first just so I would stop hurting myself. And at the time when I did that, the rule was you got to do compound movements first because you have all your energy, blah, blah, blah. And so it was really weird. Like people were like, wait a minute, you're not squatting first, your legs? Wait a minute, you're not doing a bench press first?
Right.
It was, at the time, many years ago, that was not the standard.
Sure.
And now people are kind of like, well, maybe there was something, I did it to stay in one piece, but then it turned out to be a great training principle because the exercise before the compound movement tended to activate what I was trying to train. So then when I got to the compound movement, I felt it more where I wanted to feel it, but not beat up and tired out. So you can still train strong and explosive.
Yeah.
I love the explosive stuff too.
Yeah.
Like my favorite kind of athletes are track athletes, sprinters.
Yeah.
And I just look at their bodies and how they train. I love to train explosively. I actually tell people when they're squatting and benching to squeeze the bar as hard as they can, move the weight as fast as they can.
Yeah.
Generate force. My old buddy Louis Simmons used to always talk about that.
Yeah.
The West Side. Louis was like, force. You got to generate force. And to get maximal muscle fiber activation, get those high threshold motor units, you got to have heavy weight and you got to have the right velocity and the right force. You know, actually, this is pretty cool. You know who talked about this the most was Fred Hatfield. Fred Hatfield said 78% of your 1 rep maximum is the highest neurological stimulation you can get.
Right.
So the right combination of velocity and force. And I just thought that was awesome. Like he was thinking about that because that's what you want. You want your nervous system and your muscle fibers at high.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, central nervous system to peripheral nervous system to motor unit recruitment, synchronicity. Like all of this plays into this one like perfect movement. And but yeah, things like grabbing onto the bar and like grabbing it like somebody's going to snatch it from you. You're going to be more likely to be into that groove that you need to be in versus being loose somewhere. That's awesome, man. That's really cool stuff. Awesome. So last thing, where can they find your program, man? Where's the best place to?
It's on mountaindogdiet.com.
All right. I think I've heard of that.
It's there. So pick it up, check it out. We put it up live last night, and I've ran into somebody actually in the lobby this morning at the Hilton drinking a coffee, and there were 2 guys that walked in. They're like, "Dude, we literally just watched your program an hour ago. Man, it's freaking awesome." So that made me feel pretty good. Like they could see all the work that went into it, and so mountaindogdiet.com.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it as always. Thank you.
Welcome to Price Plow.